The fluorescent lights above buzzed faintly as Nora Jenkins gripped the edge of the hospital hallway railing, her other hand clutching her belly. Each contraction came like a tidal wave, sharp, unrelenting. Sweat beaded on her forehead. The air smelled of antiseptic and late-night silence. Her phone vibrated in the pocket of her hospital gown. She fumbled to pull it out, praying it was him. "Elliot?" she said, her voice a mix of relief and exhaustion. But his voice on the other end wasn't soft or concerned. It was cold, measured, final. "Nora, I'm not coming." The words hit harder than the contractions. She froze. "What?" "Elliot, I'm in labor. The baby's coming." A pause, then a sigh. "I know, but I can't do this anymore. I've moved out. Jasmine and we're together now. I didn't want you to find out like this, but..." "You didn't want me to find out like this?" Her voice cracked. Her knees buckled. She slid down the wall, sitting against it, a nurse rushing over. "She's in early labor. Let's get her inside." But Nora didn't hear the nurse. The phone slipped from her hand and hit the floor. Her world was splitting open in every direction. Inside the delivery room, the pain of childbirth was nothing compared to the pain in her heart. She gritted her teeth and pushed, tears streaming down her cheeks, not from the effort, but from the emptiness. Hours passed. And then, just before dawn, a small cry filled the room. The nurse smiled gently. "You have a baby girl." They placed the tiny bundle in her arms. Nora looked down at the child, pink-faced, blinking at the world she'd just entered. A world already marked by abandonment. She kissed her daughter's forehead, her own chest rising with the weight of love and grief colliding. The name came softly, almost in a whisper. "Lila." She held her daughter close as tears fell freely now. "She came into the world," Nora whispered to the nurse, her voice barely holding together. "The same night her father walked out of our lives." The apartment was modest. 2 bedrooms, cracked paint on the ceiling, and a leaky faucet Nora hadn't had time to fix. But it was clean, filled with soft colours, children's books stacked on the shelves, and drawings taped to the fridge. It was safe. It was theirs. Nora sat cross-legged on the worn living room rug, red pen in hand, editing a lifestyle article on her laptop, while Lila coloured beside her. At 5 years old, Lila had Nora's eyes and Elliot's smile, though she'd never seen him in person to know it. "Mummy, do you like this one?" Lila held up a picture of a stick figure woman holding a heart. Nora smiled, tucking a loose curl behind her ear. "I love it, baby. That's beautiful." They'd been through storms, and this quiet moment, felt like sunlight. By day, Nora was a freelancer, proofreading product descriptions and blog posts from clients she never met. By night, she was a mother, cook, tutor, comforter, and budget manager. The bills were tight, her energy tighter. But somehow she held it all together. She stood up, massaging her neck. Time for dinner. As she moved to the small kitchen, her eyes caught the corkboard above the counter, photos of Lila from every birthday, each with a handmade paper crown. Underneath, a blank space, where birthday cards should have been, not one from him. She didn't talk about Elliot often, but tonight, as Lila ate her pasta and asked, "Mummy, why don't I have a daddy like Mia does?" Nora's breath caught. She sat beside her daughter, choosing her words slowly. "You do have a daddy, honey. He's just not around." "Does he know it's my birthday soon?" Nora's voice cracked slightly. "Maybe, but he didn't send a birthday card. Not once." Lila frowned. "Not even when I turned 5. Nora reached out and tucked a curl behind her daughter's ear. "Not even then." Later that night, after Lila had fallen asleep with her little arms wrapped around a stuffed giraffe, Nora sat in bed, laptop open again, but her mind wandered. She remembered when she and Elliot were just starting out, young, broke, but hopelessly in love. They used to eat ramen noodles and dream of the future. He had ambition, big plans, and a way of making her laugh so hard her stomach hurt. Then came the corporate job, the suit and tie, the fancy car, and Jasmine. She was the new assistant, always around, always too helpful, too familiar. Nora noticed. She asked Elliot if something was going on. He denied it, blamed her for being paranoid. Slowly, their intimacy faded. He started staying late at work. Then came the excuses, the emotional distance, the gaslighting. When Nora found out about the affair, she was 8 months pregnant. And when she confronted him, he didn't even apologize. He said he felt trapped, like he deserved happiness. Then he left. Her family, conservative and cold, said she must have failed as a wife. His family turned their backs, blaming her for pushing him away. No support, no child support either, just silence. But Nora had never hidden the truth from Lila. She kept photos of Elliot tucked in a drawer, just in case Lila ever wanted to see. She never said a cruel word about him, even when the bitterness rose like bile. She'd rather be broke and honest than rich and broken. Her life was smaller now, quieter. But there was a strange kind of peace in the struggle. Every dollar earned was hers. Every bedtime story read. Every scraped knee kissed. Those were hers too. She closed her laptop, glanced toward the room where her daughter slept. He didn't even send a birthday card, she whispered again. But she had, every year, handmade, with love. It started with a ping. Nora was checking emails late at night, the glow of the screen illuminating the dark corners of her modest bedroom. She was sorting through invoices, client notes, and a few junk mails when a subject line caught her attention. Congratulations to the finalists, Entrepreneur of the Year, TV special next week. She clicked out of idle curiosity, not expecting anything relevant. But as the list of names scrolled into view, one froze her completely. Elliot Ramsey, CEO of Nexera Tech, Atlanta, Georgia. Her heart stopped. She clicked the link and was taken to a glossy web page for the American Rise show, a popular televised series that highlighted self-made entrepreneurs. This season's theme, from nothing to everything. There he was, Elliot, smiling in a still shot beside Jasmine, both in sleek business attire, standing in front of the glass-panelled offices of their tech company. The write-up praised Elliot's resilience, courage, and passion for innovation, crediting Jasmine as his business partner and constant support through his toughest moments. Nora stared at the screen. No mention of a wife he left. No mention of a child. Just him and her. Picture perfect. She clicked play on the trailer. A glossy, upbeat montage rolled with music. Footage of Elliot giving speeches, Jasmine nodding adoringly, happy staff clapping during some celebration. Then came his voice. I couldn't have done any of this without Jasmine. She believed in me when no one else did. She stood by me through everything. Nora's hands tightened into fists. Everything? Like walking out on your pregnant wife at a hospital at midnight. Like missing 5 years of birthdays. She looked away from the screen and into the living room, where Lila sat cross-legged on the floor, carefully peeling the wrapper off a new crayon. She was humming a tune from school, her innocence wrapped in a world that had no idea her father was smiling on national television, pretending she didn't exist. Nora quietly closed the laptop. She wouldn't tell her. She couldn't. He'd made his choice, and there was no place for them in his new life. She wouldn't drag Lila through that pain. But fate had other plans. Later that night, while Nora folded laundry on the couch, the TV droned in the background, playing ads between segments of a nature documentary Lila liked to watch before bed. Nora wasn't paying attention. until she heard his voice again. She turned, eyes wide. Just as Lila perked up and pointed to the screen, it was the promo, that same one from the website. There was Elliot and Jasmine standing together, smiling. Then the announcer's voice. Don't miss next week's exclusive story, how this Atlanta power couple built an empire. Together. Lila's brow furrowed. Mommy, that's my daddy. Nora froze. Her throat tightened, breath caught somewhere between shock and dread. Lila stood up and walked closer to the TV, staring at the image of the man she'd never met, but somehow recognized. There was no mistaking the resemblance, those same eyes, that same shape of face. Isn't it? Nora swallowed hard, her voice low and tired. Yes, baby. That's him. Lila looked confused. Why is he with that lady? Who is she? She's someone he works with. Why didn't he come to see me if he's here in Atlanta? Her voice was small. So small. Nora knelt down beside her and pulled her close. I don't know, sweetheart. I really don't. Lila looked up, searching her mother's eyes for answers she wasn't old enough to understand. I thought maybe he forgot what I looked like. Nora hugged her tighter, pressing her lips to the crown of her head. No, baby, he didn't forget you. But in her heart, Nora wasn't sure anymore. The questions started the next morning over breakfast. Lila, spooning soggy cereal into her mouth, asked, Mommy, when did Daddy stop living with us? Nora's hand froze mid-pour as she refilled her coffee. Her eyes met Lila's, curious, innocent, but increasingly aware. He left right before you were born, Nora said softly. Why? Nora hesitated. Sometimes, people make choices that don't make sense, but that doesn't mean it's your fault. Lila stared into her cereal, lips pursed. Does he know I like drawing? Nora blinked back the sting in her eyes. I don't know, honey. Each day brought more of these small, piercing questions. Did he ever see me as a baby? Do you think he misses me? Why doesn't he call? Nora answered with as much grace as she could, never speaking badly of Elliot, even when it ached to pretend. But inside, she felt herself slowly unraveling. Meanwhile, the internet was obsessed with him. Clips from the show flooded her social media feed, people praising the brilliant and lovable Elliot Ramsey. His TEDx talk on building through betrayal went viral. He gave interviews about entrepreneurship and resilience, holding Jasmine's hand at gala events, smiling like a man who'd conquered every demon. Everywhere Nora looked, he was there, smiling, rising, erased of all sins. She considered emailing him, just once, just to say, Lila deserves more. But she remembered the last time she reached out, when Lila turned 1. No reply, not even a seen notification. Instead, she threw herself into her work. An old client had referred her to a high-profile author looking for an editor for his memoir. It was a big break, enough money to give Lila a better Christmas, maybe even enroll her in the art classes she'd been asking about. She worked late nights after Lila slept, headphones in, coffee at her elbow, buried in someone else's pain and triumphs. It was a distraction, until the distraction broke. One evening, just after she'd saved her edits and shut the laptop, a message pinged on her phone. It was from an unknown number. No name, just, "You don't know me, but I used to work for your ex-husband. I think you deserve to know something." Nora's fingers trembled slightly as she typed back, "Who is this?" The reply came within seconds. "Valerie. I was Jasmine's assistant for 2 years. I don't work there anymore. But I saw what she did." Nora's heart pounded. She rose slowly from the couch and moved to the kitchen, away from Lila's room. "What did she do?" A pause. Then, "She sabotaged you. Jasmine intercepted your emails when you were pregnant. She created fake ones too. Messages that looked like you were having an affair with a coworker. Nora's knees gave way, and she sat at the kitchen table, staring at the screen. Elliot saw them. He believed them. I tried to tell him later, but Jasmine had already locked everything down. He left you because he thought you cheated. Nora blinked. The blood in her body pulsed like a drum. She read the message again, then again. "Why are you telling me now?" she typed. Valerie's answer came quickly. "Because I saw the show, and when I saw your daughter's face in the background of one photo, I just couldn't live with it anymore. She deserves to know the truth. You both do." Nora couldn't breathe. The weight of 5 years crashed over her all at once. The humiliation, the loneliness, the unanswered questions, the nights she'd blamed herself, wondering if she'd missed some sign, some moment where she could have saved it all. And now, this, a fabricated betrayal. Nora stood up, pacing the tiny kitchen, hands to her mouth. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. But most of all, she wanted to understand how she had been so thoroughly erased. She pulled open a drawer and grabbed a photo album, one of the few she hadn't boxed away. Inside were pictures of her and Elliot in their early days, laughing on a beach, dancing at their wedding, holding hands in front of the tiny condo they thought was a palace. How could something so real become so hollow? She flipped to the last photo in the album. A sonogram. Lila at 12 weeks. She remembered showing it to Elliot on his birthday, remembered how his face had changed, not with joy, but with something else. Confusion. Distance. And now she knew why. He hadn't just left. He'd been pushed, lied to, manipulated, and he believed it. Nora sank to the floor, album on her lap, phone on the cold tile beside her. She felt something stir inside, a strange mix of sorrow and rage, like old wounds reopening, not to bleed, but to breathe. Lila's small feet padded into the kitchen. "Mommy, why are you sitting on the floor?" Nora looked up, quickly wiping her face and forcing a smile. "Just needed a moment, baby. Come here." Lila climbed into her lap and rested her head against Nora's chest. "Did something bad happen?" Nora kissed her forehead. "Something confusing, but I'm going to make it right." The spotlight hit Elliot squarely in the face as the live broadcast reached its final segment. He sat tall in his tailored navy suit, hand in hand with Jasmine, flashing his signature confident smile as the host beamed at him across the stage. "We've heard a lot from you tonight, Elliot," the host said smoothly. "But we wanted to hear from someone else, someone from your past." Elliot's smile faltered just slightly. The massive screen behind them flickered. "We reached out to people who might have known you before your success, and we found this." The screen faded into a video. It was clearly shot in a cozy living room. A little girl no older than 5 sat cross-legged on the floor, her curly hair tied in 2 messy puffs. Crayon drawings were taped to the wall behind her. "I'm Lila," she said with a big smile. "I like drawing, and my mommy says I'm good at making stories." The audience chuckled warmly. Elliot shifted uncomfortably. "I never met my daddy," Lila continued, still smiling. "But Mummy says he's smart and brave. I hope he's proud of me." Silence. Utter, ringing silence in the studio. Elliot's entire body stilled. Jasmine's hand slipped from his jaw tensed, the muscles twitching as his eyes stayed locked on the screen. The host turned to him slowly. "Would you like to say something?" But Elliot couldn't move. The weight of 5 years and a child's innocent words crashed into him live, in front of millions. He stood abruptly. "Excuse me," he muttered, voice cracking, and then, without a word to Jasmine or the host, he walked off the stage. Back in Atlanta, Nora was standing in the kitchen, frozen. She hadn't known. The TV was on, but muted. She'd only looked up when she saw Lila's face appear. Her breath had left her body in a single sharp gasp. Valerie had gone behind her back, had given the producers their information, had recorded her daughter without Nora's consent. She should have been livid, but instead, she was still. Elliot's reaction wasn't one of a man surprised by a long-lost daughter. It was the face of a man who knew, who suspected, who had buried the truth under success and shame. The internet exploded the next morning. Tech millionaire shocked by daughter's video on live TV. Heartbreaking clip of child who never met her father goes viral. Where was Lila all this time? America wants answers. Elliot trended for 48 hours straight. His firm put out a bland statement. Jasmine posted nothing. Her accounts eventually went private. Nora's inbox was flooded with interview requests, sponsorships, bloggers wanting to amplify her voice. She deleted them all. And then came the email from Elliot himself. Subject: I saw her. No apology, no explanation, just those 3 words. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. She stood at the window of their tiny apartment, watching Lila play in the courtyard below with chalk and bubbles. Light danced in her daughter's laughter. Nora finally understood. Elliot hadn't been taken from her. He had chosen to leave, and when the truth had tried to reach him 5 years ago, he turned his back on it. He had seen their daughter's face not just on TV, but in his dreams, in the silence, in the empty spaces success could never fill. And still, he stayed gone. Now the world saw him for what he was, not just a man who'd made money, but a man who couldn't face what he'd lost. And as far as Nora was concerned, that was punishment enough. He stood there on her doorstep, looking nothing like the man on the magazine covers or TV interviews. No suit, no rehearsed smile. Just Elliot, hollow-eyed, unshaven, his shoulders carrying the weight of 5 years of silence. Nora opened the door, but didn't say a word. I shouldn't be here, he began, voice low, cracking, but I had to see you, and her. Nora stayed still, arms folded. He swallowed hard. I didn't come to defend myself. There's no excuse. I believed what Jasmine told me. About you. About everything. Because it was easier than confronting my own guilt. He looked up at her, tears clinging to the corners of his eyes. I let myself believe you cheated. I didn't even ask. I just ran. Nora's throat tightened, but her face remained calm. You had 5 years, she said softly. One interview doesn't erase that. Elliot nodded slowly, biting his lip. I know, but I want to try, to be there for Lila, if you'll let me. She hesitated, then said, only if she wants. And never unsupervised. She doesn't know you. You're a stranger. He nodded again, ashamed. I'll take whatever you give. As he turned to leave, Lila peeked from the hallway. She didn't speak, just looked at him curiously, as if trying to connect the dots between the face on the screen and the man at the door. Hi, Elliot said quietly, his voice trembling. Lila waved a little, then ran back to her crayons. And that was it. No dramatic reunion, no sweeping music, just real life, tentative, uncertain, slow. A week later, the news broke. Elliot and Jasmine were splitting. Quietly, without statements. Valerie had forwarded internal documents to regulators. Turns out Jasmine had been more than a manipulator. She'd also been covering shady deals. Elliot's company was now under investigation. Nora watched the headlines without flinching. Instead, she focused on building something new. Her podcast, Held Together, started as a personal journal. Voice notes about motherhood, betrayal, heartbreak. Then listeners began to share their own stories. Within months, the podcast went viral. Women wrote in from everywhere. Single mums, divorced dads, daughters abandoned by fathers, sons raised by warriors. And then a publisher reached out. Your voice matters, the email said. Let's make it a book. Nora said yes. She didn't change her story to make it prettier. She told it like it was, messy, raw, real. Lila, now 5, kept drawing. One day she came home from school and handed Nora a picture. It was stick figures, her and Nora. Nora had a cape. Written at the top in big block letters, "My mum is my superhero." Nora looked at it for a long time. Then she kissed her daughter's forehead and whispered, "That's all I ever wanted to be. Not perfect, not famous, just enough." The room was quiet as Nora closed her book, the final sentence of the chapter still hanging in the air like a breath held too long. It was the chapter about the night Lila was born, about the silence in the delivery room, about the ache of holding joy and heartbreak in the same pair of arms. The audience clapped softly, respectfully. A few people dabbed at their eyes. Nora did too. She glanced down at the front row. Lila was grinning up at her, legs swinging off the chair, eyes shining with pride. After the event, Nora stepped outside into the cool evening air, the applause still echoing faintly in her ears. And then she saw him, across the street. Elliot. He didn't wave, didn't call out. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, eyes locked on her, quiet, still, watching. For a moment Nora's breath caught, not because she missed him, but because she didn't feel anything at all. No more wounds, no more waiting, just air. She looked back down at Lila, who had her small hand in hers. "Come on, Mommy," Lila said, tugging gently. "Let's go home." Nora smiled. Not a forced smile, not a guarded one, a real, rooted in the bones smile. She turned toward the street, took a breath, and walked forward. She didn't look back. Not at Elliot, not at the past. She just walked on, her daughter beside her, her story in her hands, her future unwritten, but finally her own. Some people leave, some lies last year's, but the truth finds a way to be seen. Hi besties, thank you so much for watching to the end. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe.